What if the sharpness of your mind at 70 or 80 is not decided by genetics alone, but by the quiet habits you repeat before breakfast, between conversations, and just before sleep? When we speak about keeping the brain sharp after 60, we are really speaking about time itself, how the body carries memory forward, how cells remember their purpose, and how the mind adapts when the pace of life changes. Aging is not a sudden event. It is a quiet, continuous conversation between biology and experience. The brain, perhaps more than any other organ, reflects this dialogue. It is shaped not only by genes and years, but by the small, almost invisible habits we repeat every day. These habits do not announce themselves as braincare. They appear ordinary: how we wake up, how we move, how we eat, how we think, how we rest. Yet inside the skull, billions of neurons respond to these choices with remarkable sensitivity. The brain after 60 is not a fading machine. It is a living network still capable of learning, reorganizing, and strengthening connections. Science calls this neuroplasticity, but at its heart, it is simply the brain's humility, its willingness to change when treated with respect. What alters with age is not the ability to grow, but the conditions required for growth. Just as soil becomes more selective about what it can nourish, the aging brain asks for steadier rhythms, gentler stimulation, and deeper care. The first habit that quietly shapes brain health begins the moment we wake. Morning light touches the eyes and sends signals deep into the brain, into a small structure that governs circadian rhythm. This rhythm is more than sleep timing. It is the master clock that coordinates hormone release, metabolism, mood, and cognitive alertness. When we expose ourselves to natural light early in the day, even for a short walk or by sitting near a window, we are telling the brain that the world is predictable and safe. This sense of predictability reduces stress hormones and allows memory centers to function more efficiently. The brain thrives on rhythm. Irregular sleep-wake cycles confuse it, but steady routines calm it. Sleep itself, often dismissed as rest alone, is one of the most active periods for the aging brain. During deep sleep, the brain clears metabolic waste, substances that accumulate during waking hours and, if left unchecked, are associated with cognitive decline. Think of sleep as a nightly cleaning process, not just for fatigue but for clarity. After 60, sleep may become lighter or shorter, but the habit that matters is consistency. Going to bed and waking at similar times trains the brain to enter restorative phases more efficiently. Even brief daytime naps, when timed earlier in the afternoon, can refresh attention without disrupting nighttime rest. Movement is another daily habit that works quietly but powerfully. The brain evolved in motion. Long before modern life, cognition and movement were inseparable. Walking, balancing, reaching. These actions stimulate regions of the brain responsible for coordination, spatial awareness, and executive function. When muscles contract, they release chemical messengers that travel to the brain and support neuron survival and growth. This is not about intense exercise or athletic performance. Gentle, regular movement, walking, stretching, light resistance, or mindful practices like Tai Chi, increases blood flow to the brain, delivering oxygen and nutrients while removing waste. What is fascinating is how movement influences mood and memory simultaneously. Physical activity increases the availability of neurotransmitters involved in attention and emotional regulation. Many people notice clearer thinking after a walk, not because problems disappear, but because the brain becomes better organized. For older adults, this organization is essential. Balance exercises, in particular, challenge the brain to integrate sensory information from the eyes, inner ear, and muscles. Each time we practice balance, we are asking the brain to coordinate complex signals, strengthening neural networks that support focus and reaction time. Food, often discussed in terms of weight or disease, is also a daily conversation with the brain. Every bite sends chemical instructions that influence inflammation, blood flow, and neurotransmitter production. The brain is rich in fats and demands a steady supply of nutrients to maintain its structure. Diets rich in whole foods, vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts, seeds, and healthy fats provide antioxidants that protect neurons from oxidative stress, a natural byproduct of aging. This stress is not inherently harmful, but when it accumulates faster than the brain can manage, it interferes with communication between cells. Sugar, when consumed excessively, creates sharp fluctuations in blood glucose that the brain experiences as instability. Over time, this instability can impair attention and memory. The habit that protects the brain is not strict restriction but balance. Pairing carbohydrates with protein and healthy fats slows digestion and provides steady energy. Hydration, too, is often underestimated. Even mild dehydration reduces cognitive performance, particularly in older adults. Drinking water regularly throughout the day supports blood volume and ensures efficient nutrient delivery to the brain. Another habit that keeps the brain sharp is engagement, not just mental activity but meaningful engagement. The brain does not respond equally to all stimulation. Passive activities may occupy time, but they do little to challenge neural circuits. Activities that involve learning, problem-solving, or creativity ask the brain to form new connections. This could be reading, writing, learning a new language, playing an instrument, or even engaging in thoughtful conversation. What matters is novelty and effort. The brain strengthens what it uses. Social interaction deserves special attention. Humans are social beings by biology, not preference. Social engagement activates multiple brain regions simultaneously: language, memory, emotion, and empathy. Loneliness, on the other hand, is associated with increased stress hormones and inflammation, both of which negatively affect cognition. Daily habits that include connection, a phone call, a shared meal, a walk with a friend, provide emotional regulation that supports mental clarity. The brain interprets social safety as permission to relax and focus. Stress management is another quiet but decisive factor. Chronic stress exposes the brain to prolonged levels of cortisol, a hormone that, in excess, interferes with memory formation and emotional balance. After 60, the brain becomes more sensitive to these effects. Simple daily practices such as deep breathing, mindfulness, prayer, or moments of stillness help recalibrate the nervous system. These practices are not about escaping reality, but about giving the brain moments of rest from constant alertness. Even a few minutes of slow breathing can shift the brain from a state of vigilance to one of repair. Curiosity itself is a habit worth cultivating. When we approach life with curiosity rather than judgment, the brain releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with motivation and learning. Curiosity keeps neural pathways flexible. It encourages questions instead of conclusions. Aging often brings the temptation to rely solely on past knowledge, but the brain remains sharp when it is invited to explore new perspectives. This does not mean rejecting experience but allowing experience to evolve. Emotional health, often separated from brain health, is deeply intertwined with it. Unprocessed grief, unresolved anger, or chronic worry consume cognitive resources. The habit of emotional awareness, noticing feelings without being overwhelmed by them, reduces this burden. Writing, talking, or reflecting allows emotions to move rather than stagnate. The brain is not designed to suppress emotion indefinitely, it is designed to integrate it. Even posture plays a role. Slumped posture restricts breathing and reduces oxygen delivery, subtly affecting alertness. Upright posture supports deeper breathing and sends signals of confidence and safety to the brain. These signals influence neurotransmitter balance and attention. Small adjustments repeated daily create cumulative effects. What becomes clear when we look at these habits is that none of them act alone. They form a network just as neurons do. Sleep influences movement, movement influences mood, mood influences social connection, connection influences stress, stress influences sleep. Brain health after 60 is not about fixing a single problem, but about nurturing balance across systems. There is also an element of kindness involved, kindness toward the body and the mind. The brain responds poorly to harsh self-criticism and thrives under patience. Learning may take longer, recall may occasionally falter, but these are not signs of failure. They are invitations to slow down and engage more deeply. The aging brain values depth over speed, meaning over volume. Science continues to reveal that the brain remains adaptable far longer than once believed. New neurons can form in specific regions, and existing neurons can strengthen connections well into later life. Daily habits provide the signals that guide this process. When we choose routines that support rhythm, nourishment, movement, connection, and curiosity, we are not fighting aging. We are cooperating with it. Perhaps the most profound habit of all is attention. Where we place it, how we hold it, and whether we allow it to wander mindlessly or guide it gently. Attention shapes the brain's structure over time. When we pay attention to the present moment, to our breath, to our surroundings, to another person, we are training the brain to be here, now. Presence reduces rumination about the past and anxiety about the future, freeing cognitive resources for clarity and insight. The brain after 60 carries a lifetime of stories. It does not need to be pushed as if it were young, it needs to be listened to. Daily habits are not instructions imposed from outside, but conversations with the body's wisdom. Each small, repeated choice is a signal of respect. Over time, these signals accumulate, shaping how the brain feels, functions, and responds. In this way, keeping the brain sharp is not a battle against decline, but a practice of alignment. Alignment with natural rhythms, with biological needs, with emotional truth. It is a reminder that health is not something we chase aggressively, but something we cultivate patiently. The brain, remarkably, responds to patience with resilience,